Welcome to another edition of The Explainer. Today, we're taking a really deep dive into distributed systems. Specifically, we're tackling a concept that honestly sits right at the very heart of modern architecture. Look, if you've ever built a data pipeline, integrated an API, or managed any kind of stream processing, you already know the pain. Keeping data clean when things inevitably go wrong, it's a massive headache. Well, today, we're going to fix that.
So let's set the scene. Picture this scenario. It's 2 a.m., your pipeline crashes halfway through a massive batch job. Your on-call engineer logs in, takes a deep breath, hits retry, and basically prays to the distributed systems gods. But in the back of everyone's mind is that visceral, real-world anxiety. If this pipeline runs twice, is our data completely corrupted? Are we double counting revenue right now? Are we charging our customers twice? It's a nightmare scenario that literally every data engineer and system architect has faced. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the incredibly high stakes of what we're about to unpack. Data engineer Chetan Gupta put it brilliantly. He said, if rerunning your pipeline scares you, it's not idempotent. I love that. Rerunning a pipeline shouldn't be some terrifying roll of the dice. It should be a boring, safe, totally normal operation. So how exactly do we get there? Well, here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll look at the core problem with retries. Second, we'll define idempotency. Then we're going to look at securing APIs with keys, failure-proofing our data pipelines, and finally, we'll wrap up with the golden rules. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The problem with retries and what happens when pipelines break. To actually solve this problem, we first have to acknowledge a pretty harsh reality of modern distributed architecture. Things break, literally all the time. Spark jobs crash halfway through just because an executor gets lost. Networks time out right in the middle of a request. Kafka consumer groups are constantly rebalancing. And schedulers, like Airflow, they're literally designed to automatically trigger retries when a task fails. So the absolutely crucial point here is that in distributed systems, failures and retries are the normal operating condition. They're not some rare exception. But without careful intervention, those retries, they cause absolute chaos. When we look at how these failures actually manifest, we generally see two main types. First up are hard failures. This is where a program just outright quits due to some exception. When it starts back up, it tries to resume from the last known cursor, which, often means replaying data. Then we have soft failures. These are actually way more pernicious. The sync doesn't completely fail, but corrupted data gets loaded anyway, which then requires intense human intervention and manual cleanup. Both of these scenarios inevitably lead to duplicated data if we aren't super careful. Moving on to Section 2, defining idempotency as the ultimate failsafe. So let's shift our focus over to the solution, idempotency. It's this mathematical, somewhat academic concept, but it is an absolute lifesaver in software engineering. Simply put, a process is idempotent if running it once or running it multiple times produces the exact same final result. That's it. It's a really simple concept, but applying it turns retries from a dangerous, system-corrupting risk into a built-in feature that you literally don't even have to think about. Let's break down a batch processing failure using a really great example from Fivetran. Imagine your data warehouse is loading records in batches, right? Say a batch has string values like gralt and garlipley. Now the batch gets halfway done and bam, the sync is interrupted. When it eventually resumes, the cursor tells it to just restart the batch. Without idempotence, gralt and garlipley get loaded a second time. Boom, you now have duplicate rows. Your data is corrupted. But if you have an idempotent pipeline, every unique record is properly identified. The system simply overwrites or entirely ignores the duplicates. The whole thing becomes completely self-correcting. Section 3. Securing APIs with keys to prevent double charges. Let's look at how this philosophy applies to the front end, specifically with HTTP APIs. Because getting this wrong here means double charging a customer's credit card, which is a total nightmare. Say a client sends a payment request, but the network drops before the server can reply. What should the client do? If they just blindly resend it, the server might end up processing that payment twice. The solution, which was pioneered largely by Stripe, is that the client must generate a unique idempotency key, usually a random UUID version 4, before sending the request. The client, not the server, dictates the unique identifier. That way, if the network drops and the client hits retry, the server sees the exact same key and knows, this is the exact same request. Now, let's see how this builds out into an atomic process. Because it's not just some simple cache, it's a really robust state machine. Step 1, the client sends that UUID. Step 2, the server doesn't just blindly process it. It actually checks an in-progress lock. If nobody is holding the lock, it grabs it. It also checks the request fingerprint, meaning it actually hashes the request body. If some buggy client tries to send the same key but with different data, the server catches it immediately. And finally, step 3, the server processes the data, saves the cache response, and sets a recovery point.
So how do servers actually communicate these edge cases back to the client? If we compare the industry standard Stripe API with the upcoming IETF standard draft, we do see a few differences. If a client sends the same key but a totally different payload, Stripe returns a 400 bad request, while the IETF draft suggests a 422 unprocessable content. But the really interesting part is the concurrent retry scenario. If two identical requests hit the server at the exact same millisecond, that in-progress lock we just talked about triggers a 409 conflict for the second request. It's essentially the server saying, whoa, hold on, I'm already processing this key.
And that brings us directly to recovery points. Imagine you have a multi-step API request. First, you charge the card, and then you save the order to the database. Well, what happens if the server crashes right after charging the card, but before it saves the order? If a retry just runs that whole script again from the top, you're going to charge the card twice. By saving state, a recovery point, after every single foreign side effect, a crashed worker can safely resume right where it left off. No blindly restarting from step 1. Which brings us to section 4, failure-proofing data pipelines and handling stream data. Now we're transitioning back into the back-end world of data engineering. And honestly, if there is one single thing you take away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Stop using blind inserts. Just blindly appending data into a database or a data lake is the #1 cause of corrupted metrics. Every single time a pipeline retries a blind insert, your data inflates. We absolutely have to use partitioned writes, where we completely overwrite a specific partition, or upserts, where we update a row if it already exists and insert it if it doesn't.
According to StreamCap, different destinations handle this in very specific, idiomatic ways. If you're writing to Snowflake, you'll want to use the merge statement. In PostgreSQL, you use the incredibly handy on-conflict clause to handle inserts and updates atomically. If you're running ClickHouse, you can leverage the replacing merge tree engine to handle deduplication in the background. And over in Elasticsearch, you just match your document ID to your natural primary key, and any retry will seamlessly overwrite the old document.
But watch out, because here is a massive trap you can easily fall into. Aggregations. Aggregations are inherently not idempotent. Think about it. If you're calculating a running total and a pipeline retries a single order worth $50, your total just jumped by $100 instead of $50. Sum is simply not idempotent. So the absolute golden rule of stream processing here is store facts, compute metrics. Always store the raw deduplicated events using your upsert logic, and then derive your aggregations dynamically from that raw data.
Now, you can't just stare at your codebase and magically know if it's idempotent. You have to actually prove it empirically. StreamCap recommends 3 specific tests. First up, replay tests. Run your pipeline against known datasets twice, and make sure the output is absolutely identical. Second, intentionally inject duplicates into your incoming stream and verify that your deduplication logic actually catches them. And third, the ultimate test. Perform kill and restart tests. Literally kill your pipeline process at random points and force it to recover. If your data is still perfectly clean after that, you've nailed it. Finally, Section 5, the golden rules and a concrete checklist.
Let's bring everything we've learned together into a highly actionable, concrete checklist for your architecture. This pulls from a really fantastic guide shared on the dev community. Here are the critical do's. You must design every single job assuming it will be retried, use overwrite or merge logic instead of appends, make your data transformations pure, meaning they only ever depend on their inputs. And finally, always use deterministic, natural primary keys so your system knows exactly how to identify the same record across any number of retries. And just as importantly, here are the don'ts. Don't rely on auto-increment IDs generated by the database. Why? Because every single retry gets a brand new ID, completely breaking your deduplication. Don't use non-deterministic functions like now inside your transformations, because a retry is going to generate a new timestamp, which changes the output. And please never mix external side effects like, say, sending an email directly inside your data transformation steps. So, the really crucial point we've uncovered today is that idempotency is way more than just some minor technical detail. It is a fundamental design philosophy. When you fully embrace at least once delivery and you design your systems to handle duplicates gracefully, you end up building architectures that are incredibly resilient, inherently trusted by your users, and significantly cheaper to maintain. Why? Because failure recovery just becomes a complete non-event.
I want to leave you with a provocative question to take back to your teams today. I want you to think about your most important pipeline, the one driving your core business metrics. Ask yourself, can we safely rerun this pipeline right now in production? If the answer is no, well, it's probably time to get to work. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building resilient systems.